What's going on, guys? It's Russell at Hustle Paintball, and today I'll be showing you guys how to install the PC3X. Now, this is the remote line adapter kit specifically for your Pro Connect 3. Now, what you'll need for this installation is, of course, the main show, the TPX. You will need the Tippmann remote line adapter kit, obviously the P3CX itself, a 7/16 socket wrench. You will need a vise later on, and I will show you guys what that's specifically for. But if you don't have one, get a big ass wrench, works just as fine. And you will need a 1/8 Allen key. But in my case, I'm gonna use a drill because it makes things so much faster. So I highly recommend that. And last but not least, this is just a little tip. You can hop on Google and check out Tippmann schematics for the TPX. I know the TPX can get a little confusing because it's so small and has so many little parts and little gizmos and gadgets. So this will help out a lot if you need it. No shame there. So let's go ahead, bring the camera in a little bit closer, and get installing. Now, before we get the ball going here, let's go ahead and grab our two adapters here, of course, the Tippmann and the Psiworx. What we're going to essentially do is swap out the nipples. You guys have seen what's inside here. Get this out of here. This is the older air fitting. I will cover what this is really for, but essentially, if you have an older TPX, you will need this. If you have a newer one, don't worry about it. So, what we'll do, like I said, is swap out the newer, or I should say, the Psiworx nipple for the Tippmann nipple. And that allows you to basically use your Pro Connect. So this is when you're going to need your wrench and your socket wrench. What we're going to do here, and again, if you have a vise, use the vise. I recommend the vise. It makes it a lot easier, but not always have access to that. Get a socket wrench, lefty-loosey, and mine's way crazy loose. This is actually going to be on extremely tight. I mean, we're talking Hulk status. So if you have a hard time getting this thing off, don't worry about it. I had to have Jay do it. So again, don't worry about it. It's on there super tight. So next we're going to grab our 1/8 Allen key. And this is very important. Well, for the most part, very important. If you're going to use CO2, you're going to need to pop out this pin. And this allows you, again, to use CO2. You can still use HPA or compressed air with this. This just lets you swap back and forth for whatever reason. And last but not least, of course, guys, go ahead and screw this thing right back in there. You guys can probably notice all those marring marks on there. That will happen if you do use a vise. Again, keep that in mind. Go ahead and grab my handy dandy wrench. Get the socket wrench, and let's tighten this thing up. Righty tighty. So I know I'm not gonna have any leaks or any kind of issues. Sweet, there we go. Get all the stuff out of the way. Cool, now I'm gonna grab my TPX here. Might as well grab my 1/8 as well. Now, this is something I kind of failed to mention at the beginning of the video. You are going to need to drill this little porting out, which basically allows you to use the entire adapter with the nipple. You're going to need a 5/16 drill bit, and with the powers of Hustle Paintball Internet, and voila, just like that. You should now have a dark hole there instead of that tan hole. Now, this is something I want to point out to you guys before we get too far here. Inside this abyss of a hole where the regulator is seated, there's a little box there. It's the air fitting. There's a plug in there, and this plug pretty much prevents you from us just grabbing our adapter and putting it down this hole and it actually threading in and working. This is something I don't really recommend. I know a lot of you guys like tinker out there and mess with stuff. The plug is just big enough, or I should say the hole here is just small enough where I can't actually get this plug out of the hole, or out of this shaft, I guess you can say. Work with me here. So if you'd like, you can get a bigger drill bit, bigger than 5/16, and actually drill this out and get the diameter a little bit bigger. And then you'd be able to actually skip this entire process and go right to the end and see if this thing works. But because I'm not really going to gamble on this, well, we'll actually take this thing apart. But something to keep in mind, and who knows, maybe one of you guys out there have already perfected this technique and it will work. So without further ado, get the adapter out of the way. Let's go ahead and get our drill, or 1/8, whatever you have. Let's get cracking here. Not all the screws are apart. Let me pull my sleeves here. It's getting a little dirty now. I like to take out the magazine. You don't really have to, but I like to. Take out the 12 Grand or the CO2 plug. Take out the barrel. And again, like I already said, you don't have to. You guys have seen me take apart TPX before, and I went through this whole thing, so you kind of know what to expect here. So I take this thing apart. It may or may not blow up on me or you out there. I'm doing it at home. If it does, that's okay. If it doesn't, well, hey, lucky you. That's awesome. Cool. Lady Luck is on my side today. Put that half over there, and here we go. Go ahead and remove that front block, or the barrel shroud as Tippmann calls it. Here we go. We're inside. I'm going to go ahead and remove the magazine. Push release button, just because it's out of the way, kind of something that moves around. Cool. Go ahead and remove the, gets out of here. This is the puncture valve that essentially lets you shoot the gun. Move the gas line, and pull out the regulator right here. It's on the bottom of the bolt assembly. Kind of wedged in there. Cool. Go ahead and grab the air fitting that Tippmann supplied you with. Now, if you have an older TPX, like I said earlier, you will be replacing this box here, which is the older air fitting with the newer air fitting, which allows you to make this whole mod work. But if you have a newer TPX, hey, don't worry about it. You can toss this aside. I recommend holding on to it because you never know when you're going to get an older TPX. You might need it. I'm going to get a little closer in here and get some light on this. Now that plug right there, that's what's pretty much chafing us and preventing us from just slipping that adapter right in there. Go ahead and grab my 1/8 Allen and simply unscrew this little plug. All this taking apart just for this little tiny plug. You can go ahead, put that aside, toss it, whatever you want. Now, something keep in mind, this is pretty important. When you're in the zone, working away, hauling ass, you're gonna wanna just go ahead, get your adapter, screw this thing right in, and get installing. You wanna go ahead and, and not do that, because you notice, and again, you say, Russell, this is pretty obvious, but hey, when you're in the zone, you're not gonna really remember. This isn't the hole. That's not clamshelled. You can't slap it right on. You just have to install it down the hole. I know it seems silly, but hey, when you're in the zone, you'll make this mistake. I did it like twice, so it happens. It's just something to keep in mind. Little tip for you. Go ahead and take this thing out, and pretty much just reinstall and go backwards to do everything we just did, but in reverse order. All right, where am I here? Go ahead and grab my gas line. Puncture valve, install in there, make sure everything's working. Cool beans. Put that magazine in there, or the push pin. Again, you have to remove that. I like to use little things that move around. Go ahead and grab front block, jam it in there. Cool. See, as soon as that happens, it explodes on you. And when it does explode on you, make sure the detent on the breech didn't go anywhere. Something to keep in mind. Once again. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing back together. I'm going to flip this around here. In the last TPX video I did need 3 hands. Hey, in all seriousness, if you need help, no shame. This thing can be pretty dang tough to do. All right, cool. And all my screws are in the right area. I'll coordinate correctly. Just drop those things in and tighten them down. Cool beans. Now we have all the screws in. Keep in mind, when you are putting the screws in, there are some hex nuts that are on the back of all locations of the screws. Those can fall out, and they probably will fall out. So just keep an eye out for them so they fall, you don't lose them. The other thing to keep in mind is when you are putting this thing back together, sometimes that little clear window seat, it actually looks like a dark hole. There we go, kind of get the glare. That's a clear little window. That will fall out or can fall out. I was lucky enough where it actually did not pop out, but if it does, just kind of look out for a little clear little piece. You don't really want to lose that. You don't want to really expose this hole to the elements, i.e. dirt. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get our magazine, put it back in, get our barrel, screw that back in. Before I put the CO2 cap back in, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the adapter first, the main show. This thing simply, guys, will just go right in there. The reason why we do this whole thing, screw it in. And get it nice and tight. Might need to get a wrench, just kind of get a little extra tight in there. But we're all good. Now, get our cap here. In order to make sure this thing actually works and airs up, you do need to get a 12 gram. I recommend an empty 12 gram. I don't really think if you put a full one in there, it's really a good idea to have CO2 going one way and HPA going that way, or if you're using a CO2 tank, having more CO2, going through your gun like this. So get an empty one, slide it in there, get your cap, and you're gonna work. There you go. If without the 12 gram in there, 12 gram, excuse me, and you plug in your remote, it's just going to leak. It's not like it's gonna be looking down the barrel. So you don't want that. Make sure the 12 gram is in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my tank, grab my Pro Connect 3, and we're gonna see if this thing airs up and holds air. All right, gang, moment of truth. See if it airs up. Got my Pro Connect 3, got my Ninja 7745, already aired up. Got a plug and play, here we go. Awesome, holds air, let's see if it fires. Get my state-of-the-art Hustle barrel muffle. Awesome, shoots just great. I love the idea of having a remote on a pistol. Don't get me wrong, 12 grams, pretty badass, but there's just something about a remote, having an unlimited air supply, pretty damn neat. So of course, guys, you can buy the TPX, specifically the Desert Tan if you'd like, and TPX accessories, the Pro Connect 3, the Ninja Tank, these awesome pants, all at hustlepaintball.com. Be sure, guys, to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, read the blogs, join pbriot.com, and talk to myself day or night or rest of the Hustle staff. And last but not least, guys, you can shoot us an email at videos@hustlepaintball.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. You never know. Your next video idea might be our next actual video. Other than that, guys, see you when I see you. Talk to you. Cool beans. What's up, guys? Yeah, over there.
Who's over there?
Yeah. You guys up there. You guys up there.